Okay, so demonstrating an attentive and respectful attitude. Does anyone think that that's a bad thing to do with a patient?
No, it's good.
It's good.
It's a good thing to do, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's a great thing to do, isn't it? It could never be a bad thing to do to be attentive and respectful to a patient. Okay, so I would split this into two things. One is attentive. And although there isn't a lot of guidance on this in the criteria about being attentive, it sort of crosses over with information gathering. Can anyone think of something that it sort of matches with information gathering? No? Active listening. Okay, if you think about what active listening is you're not just sitting there silent. Okay.
Echoing.
You're acknowledging. Okay. So there are a number of ways of being attentive. You can use active listening where you're going, yeah, or you're asking questions about what they're saying, you're clarifying, you're asking them to repeat. Stuff like that is being attentive. And if you think about it, being attentive is being responsive. That's the way to do it. Be responsive. Responding shows that you're listening. It means that you know that they've just finished talking and now it's your turn to say something. Asking questions about that is a good thing to do. Another thing that's not in the criteria anyway, but I think is really good, and whenever I hear it, I like it, and it shows respectful attitude, and it also demonstrates that you're being attentive, which is positive feedback. Positive feedback. So let's go. I'm going to talk to let's go Catalina. Okay. Let's talk about, you've just been diagnosed with migraines and you want to know more information about it. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start. I'm going to say about the diagnosis, and then you can ask me some questions about migraines and how we're going to treat them. Okay. Okay. So Catalina, thanks very much for all of the information you've just given me. Now, putting everything together, it would appear to me that you've got migraines. You're experiencing migraines. Have you heard of those before?
Yes.
Okay.
I had experience
Okay.
these symptoms 2 years ago.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to talk to you about treatment. All right. Do you have any questions about migraines or treatment at the moment?
Yes. Can I take some pills for my migraine?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Yeah, you will be given medication to be taken as and when. All right. You do get those migraines. So you're not going to be taking them every day orally, forever. It's just when you get them. Okay. So what was the positive feedback I gave to Catalina there?
That's a great
Great.
question.
Great
question.
A great question. Yeah. So things like that. Oh, why is that not typing? Okay. Yeah. That's a great question. Or I'm pleased to hear that. Or that sounds really good. Just imagine that the patient says things like, so I've been following your dietary advice, or recently I've been trying to do a little bit more exercise. All of these phrases, they make it clear that you're listening, and you're able to sort of combine that being attentive with also being very positive about it. So these are two different ways that I think that you can demonstrate that you're being attentive. Christina, have you got a question?
I have a question, Paul.
Yeah.
If patient has a lot of question, should I always respond? It's a good question.
No.
To hear that.
No, we're going to talk about empathy today. And one of the things that I'm going to say there is when you say the same phrase over and over and over again in any language, it
Mhm.
starts to, first of all, it starts to lose its value. And then it starts to become like, why does he keep saying the same thing to me? Is he being rude? You know, for instance, if you kept saying to me, that's a great question, I'm thinking after the fifth time, she didn't think my first question was a great question. I
Yeah.
don't believe her anymore. So it's the same with empathy.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't, no, I'd only say it once.
A few times, yeah. Only
I wouldn't say it a few times. I'd just say it once.
once. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I would say it all. I'm not saying I would say it my first question. If I think it's a good question, I'll say it.
Mhm.
It's just something, it's a tool, isn't it? It's a phrase. Just like the word upside down. Okay. You're not going to use the word upside down all the time, only when it's necessary. So
Mhm.
if you think something is a good question, say that's a great question. Yeah, it could be something like, so should I exercise before dinner or after dinner? That's a good question. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's just something,
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay,
we're
thank you,
talking
Paul.
about now trying to demonstrate an attentive attitude, active listening from information gathering. All of those will be useful. You know, not staring into space, maintaining eye contact. I know that they can't hear that on the tape, but when you're doing it with the interlocutor, it will help the conversation that you're doing as well. And obviously body language. Okay, but now respectful. Respectful. How do I do respectful? Anyone think of a way of demonstrating respect for the patient?
Not interruption.
Okay.
Yeah. So don't interrupt unnecessarily.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we've all had patients or students, haven't we, who just talk, and sometimes you've got to stop them. Yeah, but definitely in OET that you're not going to need to interrupt people, I would say. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else?
Is that okay? Like those phrases?
Ask permission.
Permission, yeah.
Ask permission. So think about when you can ask permission when you've suggested something, okay, for the conversation, like providing structure, okay, when you're signposting. I'd like to talk about this. Is that okay? I'd like to move on now. Is that okay? Also, when bringing up or introducing a sensitive topic. What is a sensitive topic, guys?
About
Like
this
telling his
death,
diagnosis.
maybe.
Like
Yeah, death. Yeah, the death is a sensitive topic.
Maybe
Any other?
cancer.
Prolong,
Cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
prolong and disease like asthma. So it,
I don't think asthma is a sensitive topic.
Like surgery.
Surgery also.
Surgery. Is that a sensitive topic?
For patient.
Amputation, maybe.
Amputation, definitely. Yeah, amputation. Yeah. It depends on the surgery. Weight,
Mhm.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all things like that. There could also be some other cultural things. Now, this isn't so much about OET, it's just about life in general. There could be cultural differences that could be brought up as well. Religion or religious restrictions. You know, there are certainly some religions where blood transfusions and things like that are not allowed. Gender, yeah, gender. More and more and more. Something like gender could be something. So these kinds of topics, when we're introducing them, it's good to ask some permission. So I'd like to ask you some questions about your sexual history. Is that okay? You don't just say, okay, now in terms of sex, you don't just jump into the conversation like that, especially if we've got a difference. But if it's a man speaking to a woman or a woman speaking to a man, it could get really awkward. So all of these kinds of topics, I think we're going to be a bit slower on these. We're not just going to jump into them. We're going to introduce them, ask if it's okay to talk about them. So asking permission is a good one. So again, remember, We were talking about demonstrating a respectful attitude. I know that you are respectful. All right? We're all respectful, but can we all demonstrate it? All right? You might be perfectly respectful throughout the whole conversation, but you haven't been able to demonstrate it, so they don't know. Okay? Yanelsi, do you have a question?
Another thing the rule that is good for respect for the patient is like respect the patient opinion. Sometimes the patient refuse I don't want to do that, I don't want to, and you need to respect that. You need to
Absolutely, absolutely. But Yanelsi, we'll do that here.
okay, I'm so sorry.
The next one, but they do definitely cross over for sure. Yeah. So far, if you think about it, another thing that could be respectful is confirming how the patient wants to be named. You know, it's, yeah, my name's Paul James Edward Craven. Okay, can I call you Paul? That's respectful, isn't it? No, I prefer Mr. Craven. I don't know, maybe they would say that if they're being a bit uppity. Okay, so we can do these things to show that we're respectful and to show that we're attentive. It's not difficult to do them. We can do these and just put them as part of our technique. Now, non-judgmental, I think Yanelsi definitely brought up a good point there. The one I always think of is vaccines. There are lots of people with very strong anti-vaccine ideas at the moment, including some healthcare professionals, I know. During COVID, there were some very high-profile anti-vax nurses. I think they ended up being struck off the NMC because they were very public with it. Now, if your job is to provide flu vaccines to elderly patients, and an elderly patient says, no, I don't want this vaccine. Vaccines make you sick. Or you're talking to parents with a newborn baby. No, I don't want to vaccinate my child against mumps, rubella, chickenpox, because it gives them autism. Well, you're going to have to deal with that. All right. And you can't, even though when I think of that attitude, it makes me really angry. We would do it, was it? I know it was a different class, but when people don't vaccinate, this is my opinion, when people don't vaccinate, it endangers everybody. Okay, so that makes me personally quite angry when someone has that opinion. But my anger can't be shown. I've got to be professional, haven't I? If someone demonstrates that kind of attitude and I think it's ignorant, I can't allow my behavior to be influenced by how I feel on it. Okay, I've just got to stick to the facts. All right, stick to the facts. Now, if somebody's wrong, all right, say for instance this autism thing, there's no scientific proof that vaccinations cause autism in children. There's no proof at all. So they are wrong. If they say it causes autism, they are wrong. So you are wrong. That sounds factual, doesn't it? But is that a good way for me to continue my consultation?
No.
That's not good, is it? You are wrong. Do you like being wrong? Does anyone like that? Do you like being wrong?
No.
No.
Do you like it when someone possibly more educated than you tells you that you're wrong? Is that a good feeling?
No.
No.
When someone who considers them, who's part of the authority, who considers themselves better than you, telling you that you're wrong, do you like it?
Not judgmental.
You don't, do you? No one likes it. Okay. Especially if you've got a really strong opinion about it, which people do with this anti-vaccine thing. So you can't say you're wrong. Okay. Don't use language such as you're wrong or that's incorrect or you're crazy. All right. I know that you'd never say you're crazy, but these two possibly And this, I think there is a cultural aspect here as well. In some cultures, people they dance less around the truth, and there's less unnecessary politeness. And an example I always give is, I remember I was standing behind two German guys at a place where people were ordering coffee, and there was a young woman. She was about 17. She was really busy. The queue for coffee was never ending. Coffee, 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 coffee. She was on her own. And these two German guys, they'd been standing in the queue for a long time, and they went, 2 coffees now. And I was behind them, and I nearly went tap on the shoulder. Excuse me, you can be polite to her. But then I realized they're not English. They're not from England. They don't have the same thing. And I remembered some things. I remember some Spanish people and some German people telling me once, you don't have to say please all the time. She's making coffee. Just say 2 coffees. That's enough. But I would always say, oh, hi there. Please, can I have 2 coffees? Or if it's okay, can I have 2 coffees? I don't know why we do it that way. It's unnecessary. It doesn't make any difference. But you're going to need to do it in OET. Okay. If in your culture it would be fine to say that's incorrect and go to what you want to say, you can't do that here. You've got to start with something. You've got to avoid immediate rebuttal. Rebuttal. Put your hand up if you don't know the word rebuttal. If you don't know it. Okay, Jesna and Ala and Helen. Okay. Even though you don't know the word, you know what it is. Okay. Rebuttal is when you immediately contradict what someone says to you. Immediately contradict it. All right. So if someone says, actually, I don't want to give my child a vaccine because it will give them autism. It doesn't give your child autism. That's rebuttal. Saying no, immediately contradicting someone. So you can't do that. You've got to use some kind of an accepting phrase. Okay, so Jesna, can you think of an accepting phrase? Something you could say to someone who says, no, I don't want to give my child autism. I don't want the vaccine.
I accept. I don't know.
It's hard, isn't it? It is hard. I would be thinking something like, I understand you're concerned.
Let me explain.
You're concerned about the vaccine. Now, think about what I've done here. I haven't said something I don't believe. Okay, I haven't done it. I've just said, look, I know that you're concerned about the vaccine. What am I going to do now? What word?
But
Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to say what I think. Okay, so there's so many different ways of doing this. You could even say something like, I know that there are concerns about the vaccine. Okay, I'm just saying they exist in the world. So, however, it's up to you how you do it. There's so many different ways of doing it. So what we have to try and do is we have to say, okay, look, your opinion is accepted here. I'm not going to immediately say, you don't belong here. No, your opinion's completely wrong. You're an idiot, or any of those things. Okay. It's my job to try and get this child vaccinated. I want this child to be vaccinated. It makes everyone safer. What's the best way for me to do it? To be rude and to have a fight? Well, the parent's going to walk away without the child being vaccinated, definitely. The best thing for me to do is, they call it nudging, don't they? Don't know if you've ever heard that. To nudge. If you nudge something, you move it forward slightly to nudge it. So that's a big part of health, what's it called? health PR. If you want people to eat less meat, you can't say meat is unhealthy, meat gives you cancer. Instead, you've got to nudge people. You've got to give them little things like options that you can do instead of having meat that look delicious. You know, as Tasnim says, it's a bit of coaxing.
This is the usual formal structure for these types of classes.
Okay, so here I am with Edwin. Hi, Edwin.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, nice to see you. Okay, so Edwin, you are an OET hero, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, super. So where do you live?